I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where we get real mad about the Holocaust. That's what we do on this podcast. We're going to talk about it. We're going to reference it. We're going to see how it compares to our day-to-day lives. It's what we're going to do, Gary. Are you ready for Holocaust Chat 2023?
The X-Men Holocaust.
Yes, the X-Men Holocaust.
Yeah, we're talking about that guy. It's also where we're going to sit in an interrogation room and cross and uncross our legs over and over and over.
Yes, absolutely.
And I can say 100% truthfully, I'm not wearing panties.
No, me either.
Yeah. So, if that seems like something that, us, chunky podcasters and or Sharon Stone would do, it is.
Do they still make sexy thrillers like that, like Secretary or like Basic Instinct or any of that stuff?
I am preemptively sighing because that is a big discourse thing.
Oh, is it?
It's attached to the the MCU. Everyone is beautiful, but no one's horny.
Okay.
Discussion of apparently they don't make enough to some folk. Mm-hmm. They don't make enough of them. And that's a serious crisis. Mm-hmm. That is a death knell of the industry and the art form. That we don't get Basic Instinct anymore.
I saw a Jennifer Lawrence interview because she's got some like R-rated comedy movie out. Apparently, and they were asking her like, what's your favorite like raunchy comedy? And she was naming stuff, and it made me realize like she had named a bunch of movies that, of course, like I grew up watching because she's younger than me, but like you're gonna watch all those same movies, and that's like a genre of film that I don't really see anymore either, like the raunchy R-rated comedy. But then I think like, what films do I watch? Like, how deep am I going out there? Like, it's not like I'm really like pursuing the mantle of
you're not looking for
cinematography or anything. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if I need to watch a Superbad when I'm 42. I don't know. I'm not.
It's possible to me. It is possible for things to move on. Like those movies still exist and are still fine and good. Mm-hmm. Did you end up seeing Booksmart?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Booksmart's great. It's Olivia Wilde. It is so down to having Jonah Hill's sister, kind of like a lady Superbad. Mm-hmm. A little bit less raunchy, but also less problematic and a little smarter. It's really good. Worth your time.
Going to add it to my queue right now, but let's not talk about movies that we're not going to watch. Let's instead
talk about comics that we have read,
and also thank our guest Gwen for on the last two episodes.
Oh yeah,
she was great.
Yeah,
it's been a while
since
thing
for Gwen to pop in right now. We can talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huh.
I talked to Gwen a little bit about this series recently when I was able to hang out with her. So I was pretty excited. I'm pretty excited to chat about Fatal Attractions. We're not going to bury this any longer.
Oh yeah. This is the early 90s, 1992 X-Men crossover. One of the first, not one of the first really big ones, but one of the first ones that had a very long-lasting tale. Like there had been Extinction Agenda and Executioner's Song. And all of these things. This is a line-wide crossover that had pretty big repercussions. And I have, on rereading it, it's a 90s comic, so there's things to clown on that are not good. There's some things I think are really good. And I also cannot divorce myself from my child self that thought this was literally the coolest fucking thing that has ever happened in a million years or would ever happen.
Yeah, this is...
We're now 30 years later, and I still think a little hologram of Gambit throwing cards at me is basically the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. I just like scores a pussy, and it just Gambit throwing cards at me.
That's the thing. We need strip clubs that are just Gambit throwing cards at you. That's the thing that we need. That's the. Of course, that's probably just what like Universal Studios nowadays. Like that's like a Star Wars experience or something. Yeah, World
of Marvel. This is a huge deal. This was the 30th anniversary of X-Men. So they did this big crossover. The origins of this are very funny. They were doing a writing retreat, and Peter David, who was writing, he doesn't write the episode of X Factor we're going to start with, but he was writing X Factor at the time and was frustrated because X Factor did not have a big enough part in those line-wide crossovers, but his storylines were still getting derailed to be in them. And he kind of petulantly complained about like, oh, why the fuck don't we just have Magneto suck out Wolverine's skeleton? and everyone loved it.
And everyone went wild. The crowd went wild.
It was a joke, and everyone was just like, "Oh my god, that's the coolest thing that could happen." And they built a crossover around it.
Yeah, to lead specifically to that point, and also to kind of explore a pretty classic X-Men thing of like the dream, of Xavier's dream for mutants and humans to live in harmony, and Magneto's dream, which is to not do that. It changes on the regular.
His dream changes a lot. This is I consider this to be kind of the last kind of major hurrah of Magneto being a shitty megalomaniac for a while. He eventually will do it again, and then during New X-Men, obviously he's on Sublime Kick. Yeah. So he's a real maniac during that. But this, Magneto has always gone back and forth between being reasonable and being this. This feels like trotting out a classic, just big villain Magneto for a big fight.
Yeah.
To kind of climax that idea. And since then, with a couple of exceptions, he has been a lot more even-handed and nuanced. It'd be real weird if like X-Men started now and Magneto was just like, I'm going to take over a space station, like it has missiles pointed at the Earth. Like that's not really what's going on anymore.
It's interesting too, because they like the lead-ins to this. So we're just covering the main like 6-issue arc crossover event, and then the epilogue. But there's if you're on Marvel Unlimited, if you search for the event, there's the lead-in issues, which is like 8 or 9 issues. And I was on a plane, so I read all of it. And the lead-in is kind of interesting because, at this point, Magneto is assumed dead. Like Asteroid M fell to the Earth, and everyone's like, there's no way they could have survived that. Nobody could survive that, not even Magneto. So we're just going to think he's dead. But there's a lot of like, is he really dead? Or is he? Yeah. And there's the lead into this. There's a lot of like, we need to build a gun to kill Magneto kind of stuff, because there's a guy who like when Magneto goes crazy after his daughter is killed, he murders this dude's brother, and this dude has a revenge hard-on for killing Magneto. So he goes through all of this thing, like he gets recruited by like whatever government agency. They build the special gun, the special suit, so they can't be detected, and then like the climax to that leads into this is him getting the shot and then not taking the shot because he realizes like, oh, I don't want to be your murderer. Like, and it's just, it's a lot like, and I get it. Like it's a very like, it's a moment, but like, it's just a hilarious moment to put in a comic book of like, this dude has magnet powers, and I don't want to kill him.
Yeah. He's, and it turns out, this is doing the very classic superhero and just kind of fiction story of like, because if he had killed Magneto, a lot of people would still be alive right now. Yes. In this world. Like there is an argument for what's interesting about this crossover now, and this is maybe just me having a harder line than I do now, and feeling a little bit more nuanced about it, is that this is presented a little bit as a tragedy, like what happens, this kind of solution for Magneto here. There's a lot of shade to it and a lot of questioning whether it's right or wrong. It doesn't seem that wrong to me. He does a real horrible thing right away.
Yeah.
We go kill, I don't know. Somebody, this is like, I'm not a, mega patriot or whatever, but like somebody did a 9/11 and it made sense to like go find the person who did the 9/11, at least on a real basic level.
Yeah.
And they put him in so many jails.
And there's
he just gets out.
The two, like we start with this, like with the occults. Why can't I say that word correctly? The acolytes. Jesus Christ, where's my brain?
That's okay. I thought you were saying a cult.
Yeah, I don't know where I was. I don't know. I just lost the ability to speak there for 30 seconds.
Are you okay, man?
Yeah, I'm taking my blood pressure right now just to make sure, something's not wrong.
Holy shit.
But the acolytes like murder a bunch of innocent people, and there's a moment later in this where Magneto, having been revealed to be alive at all this time, and the acolytes are like, "Oh my God, we were there for you," and Magneto is like, "Yeah, but you killed a bunch of people, which I would have totally let you do. But you didn't check in first, so I'm going to kill you for doing that." And I'm like, so y'all are like tripling down on just how evil this fucker is. And then right after that, fucking Colossus is like, let's go, going on the Magneto train.
So it's worth thinking about that though, because we're going to get into this. We're covering the first 3 issues, which is X Factor number 92, the X Force number 25, Uncanny X-Men number 304. Uncanny X-Men number 304 is the issue where that happens. And it's fucking Scott Lobdell. Most of the other stories in this storyline are written by Fabian Nicieza. I never know how to pronounce that correctly, but he is a better writer. And his version of Magneto for this just wants to be left alone. You know? And then Scott Lobdell had him come down and crash a funeral and be like, it was just good that you killed the flat scans. You know, Earthlings must die. And it like almost tanks the crossover for me.
Yeah.
Because everything else he's making, like these first two issues are really good, I think. And who knows if I can separate that from childhood stuff, right? And they're also 90s comics. They're really slowly paced, tons of speeches and stuff. Put that aside. I think that they're like coherent to the crossover. And then Uncanny X-Men is just kind of shitty. And then when they actually X-Men number 25, I think the one that we'll cover first in the next episode is really good. Like the conversations and stuff that are happening in that are like good classic X-Men shit. Nobody's acting like a fucking idiot in it. Unlike in the one right before it.
Yeah. It's the classic problem with these crossover events, right? Like you get these writers get their grubby little bits on characters that they weren't writing before and just go fucking crazy with it. And and you know, I think a lot of it has to do with the nature of comic books and printing and lead times and things like that were like, oh, this is done, and like we have booked, like we have orders for these issues. We can't go, like there's very little you can go back and like change from an editorial perspective.
It's an editorial thing too. Like the editorial should have kept track of that. But also, this is also an issue with Scott Lobdell.
Yes,
you know, one of my least favorite Marvel writers of all time, and I think responsible for just a Herculean amount of bad comics. Let's get into it. We're starting out with X Factor, and this is our first issue of the new X Factor. We covered the old X Factor when it was the original team. Mm-hmm. This is like Strong Guy, Multiple Man, Havoc X Factor. I have a lot of affection for these guys.
I do too. Like Strong Man Guido is one of my I don't know why I was just obsessed with him as a kid. I was like, this dude rocks. I just loved everything. Cool. Yeah, I just loved everything about him.
It's cool. He's got a cool power, got a fun personality. He's great.
And we're gonna get into it real quick with the acolytes attacking this nursing home. And the narration is done by one of the nurses that were attacked after the attack, but we're seeing on the page like what they're doing, basically just murdering their way through with no mercy whatsoever.
One of the great joys of this, I was first introduced to the idea of the acolytes from the early X-Men comics where Magneto apparently died, and then being a basic enemy in the Sega Genesis X-Men games. Mm-hmm. I love the acolytes, even though they are the dorkiest X-Men villains of all time. Their unifying uniform bit is bad shoulder pads.
Yes.
And this fucking crop we got here on the front page of Yavitz, who is a big one-eyed dork. Spore, which means like animal poop. Like you track something by its spore. Senyaka, who is just like this whip edgelord. And then the Kleinstocks, who like their power is there's two of them and they can kind of turn into one. But the image on this first page is them. They look like a conjoined twin, conjoined dick to butt.
Yes, just the worst possible unification. Like we did it. We did a bad fuse and Tears of the Kingdom.
Horrible Super Saiyan dance or whatever, and just like did it backwards. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty awful, and they don't waste any time. Like they are going to literally murder their way through like a bunch of old people, and we see like
it's awful.
Yeah, I mean it's violent, it's gory. At one point, Senyaka like ties their threads, like their little energy bolt ropes or whatever, around this nurse's throat, and we're gonna see on the next page like how much that scarred her. She's missing an arm. Like they really fucked this place up.
The Kleinstock guy who grabs the person's IV drip and boils it.
Horrifying.
Just absolutely awful stuff. This is not Peter David drawing this. This is Joe Quesada, J.M. DeMatteis, and Scott Lobdell working on the plot. Mm-hmm. The art is Joe Quesada art, which I have some affection for. I think 90s Joe Quesada art is good.
Yeah, I think all of this stuff really works for me as far as the time period, right? Like this is all really good. We jump to the present where this nurse is telling X Factor and basically what happened, and she's just questioning like they did this for Magneto. Like they kept saying how this was going to be, this is what Magneto wanted them to do. What kind of man could this Magneto be? And of course we see Pietro Quicksilver thinking like, yeah, I've been asking myself that for a long time. Like this is real fucked up. So
very rough on Quicksilver here. The nurse dies. and this is the inciting incident to making everybody big mad. Quicksilver walks off on his own, and we see I can't remember her name now. I get the acolytes mixed up. There's one that can actually project.
Scanner.
Scanner.
Mm-hmm.
She's watching him. Goes back to talk to Fabian Cortez. Fabian Cortez is a little shit. He's a really generic, crappy villain. He brought Magneto back and was artificially pumping up his powers, even though he was dying, and is responsible for betraying Magneto in the early 90s X-Men, getting him killed. And then he took over the acolytes. That is who he is. He pumps up other people's powers around him.
Also, in the lead-in issues to this, there's like this is like a game that they're playing with some other dude. Like there's a couple of like other players, and it's like the goal is to,
it's the Game Master. That's the Child's Play crossover.
Yeah. It was fucking confusing as hell. I was like, what is going on?
New Warriors crossover. I read the shit out of that. The Upstarts with Trevor Fitzroy. Shinobi Shaw, like just the worst of the 90s.
It was just horrible.
I just
not
had
very
it as
much.
a kid.
Yeah, not very much of that comes up in the actual crossover, thankfully. So.
No. The idea behind that crossover was a guy named the Game Master, who is an omnipath.
Yes,
like he is in everyone's minds all the time. Says how many of the original New Mutants and Hellions, the first generation of or second generation of mutants, can you kill? And he has a little contest with a bunch of shitheads like Sienna Blaze.
Awful. Just awful.
Yeah. Fabian Cortez is one of those shitheads.
Scanner comes in to reports to Fabian Cortez, and she says like, hey, we killed all these humans, but I feel a little fucked up about it. Like they don't really seem like a threat to us.
They're fucking deathbeds, man.
Yeah.
And Fabian Cortez, were they flat scans? If so, they were a threat. And pulls her hair. Screams that he's going to get Quicksilver is the idea.
Yep.
He wants to get Quicksilver on his side to borrow that lineage to kind of consolidate his power with the acolytes.
And he says he has agents, he has operatives in place to do that even now. And we go back to the X Factor, and it's revealed that we have chosen just an awful outfit for Lorna Dane. Just don't know what happened to Lorna Dane.
This is how I find out what Lorna Dane looks like now. She looks like a lady wrestler. She looks like a glow.
Like an American Gladiator, right? Like she...
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And Polaris is already kind of an American Gladiator-ass name.
I feel like there was a Polaris at American Gladiator, to be honest with you.
They got that documentary. Like, I don't care about those 30 by 30 documentary things because I don't care about sports, but there's one about American Gladiators I'd like to watch.
There's a Polaris like 4-wheeler, I guess, that is getting all the SEO nowadays when I type this in. So yeah. Oh well.
They are interrogating Spore.
Yes.
Whose power, as far as I can tell, is like being a little animal with a bad haircut.
Yeah, he's like a
Bigfoot with an awful haircut.
Yeah, imagine how much a life-size real Muppet would be. That's you know what I'm saying. Just an awful, like weird looking, just weird Muppet that smells bad, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And we're going to go back and forth, and like, the X Factor team are kind of hyped up a little bit, so they're like, we should just fuck this dude up. And Val is there, their leader, Val Cooper, thank you. Is like, no, we can't do that. You need to back down, Havoc. You need to back down. And eventually Havoc just loses control and starts zapping the fuck out of this dude. And everything comes to a halt when Quicksilver comes in, and Spore just collapses to his knees and starts worshiping him as the sun.
Yes.
And Quicksilver's not really comfortable with this at all, despite having like a kind of a Namor god complex. But
yeah, but not for his dad. He wants to be a god for himself.
Exactly. Yeah. Nobody wants to be Jesus. Yeah. Everybody wants to be God.
Poor Rain Sinclair, who gets barely any lines in this whole thing and just gets to go, "'Tis sacrilege." They're worshiping him. We got cut to an hour later where they've gotten some intel from him, and they found out about a fort they're going to. Val Cooper is going off with Quicksilver, and they're leaving Havoc behind.
Yeah, leaving the whole team behind because
other than Quicksilver.
She does not want them to just basically elevate the situation in any kind of violence. So instead, she's bringing Random, everybody's favorite mutant bounty hunter.
Have we had a chance to talk about Random
I think
on this podcast?
He must have showed up in one of the like Generation X comics. I think we did, right? Like I feel like we've talked about Random before, but not extensively.
He's in one episode of the animated series, just in the background. I think.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing I was thinking about.
Yeah, he looks like he's dressed up as like a child's conception of Axl Rose, but he's actually a child's conception of a badass. Like the whole idea behind Random is that his skin turns into guns and stuff. It's pretty crappy, like kind of like Bushwhacker, except Bushwhacker stays flesh tone. It's really gross. Random does that, and the big reveal for Random is he's a little kid who has his powers and is pretending to be a big tough guy.
Yeah.
I went on a deep dive about Random after reading this and like learned like he joins the team and betrays them and all this stuff and eventually becomes a good guy and all this shit. I was just curious. I kind of regret it.
What facts do you no longer remember now that you know all of these facts about Random?
I know. What did I lose?
Yeah,
like what childhood memories? There goes my second kiss. I still remember my first, but fuck. Traded out for Random. So they're going to take off to this military camp where they found out the Acolytes are going to go. And Havoc says, we're going to follow them, basically. Has Lorna Dane follow them, and they're getting in this brand new craft that they have that can go under people's radar because it's a gigantic metal sphere that Lorna Dane has to push around with her magnet powers.
I like because Forge, they talk about how Forge made this for them. And Forge is like, can't remember, is it a technopath or a techno wizard or something? Like he's got
he can invent anything.
He can invent anything. And it just makes me think that sometimes he just on purpose invents some really bad shit. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just like, I mean, I could have made this better, but like, it's X Factor. Like who cares? It's not a main line.
It was the early 90s. He was probably playing Final Fantasy 3 on the SNES at the same time.
Sure, yeah.
He had rented it and he had to get it beat in a weekend, so he didn't give his full to this. But the idea here is Lorna Dane sits on this big chair shooting magnets at this thing to make it fly, and it is real bumpy and is making everybody real queasy.
Yes.
And
this is
a strong guy who's making puke jokes.
And this is when we first meet Exodus. Who is not really well fleshed out in this whole thing.
Nope. He comes back later. His origin eventually gets explained. He's like on the Quiet Council in Krakoan era stuff. I am very unclear on what he does exactly other than like shoot beams and do everything. But as a kid, this was the coolest looking motherfucker I'd seen in my life. And I drew a lot of dudes who looked like this.
Mysterious too. I think that's the big thing. Is like they don't really talk about him, so like your imagination just runs wild. And he's essentially Magneto. We don't know this yet, but he's Magneto's right hand man, and he's going to be trying to recruit mutants to Magneto's side.
Yes,
with basically just saying like, yeah, we want you to come, and they're like, to what? And they're like, we'll tell you later.
We'll tell you later, which is a horrible. Nobody, don't sign up for that.
Yeah.
This guy's from 12th century France. It's dumb.
Sure.
His origin is stupid. He doesn't do anything. He just kind of flies by and decides to nope out, and everyone's weirded out by this. Random, Quicksilver, and Val Cooper land at Camp Hayden here. And kind of talk their way in. There are guards. It's heavily guarded for what is supposed to be like a disused military base.
Mm-hmm.
Attempt to talk their way in. It's not working until Quicksilver does the cool thing of like disarming everybody and taking apart their guns.
Yeah. And all these dudes are in robot suits, which are kind of weird. Like if this place is just supposed to be empty, like why are there a bunch of robot suit guys running around?
Yeah.
And also Senator Kelly is there. Senator Kelly comes in and is like, what the fuck are you doing here, Val Cooper? And she's like, well, I outrank you, so I can do whatever the fuck I want to.
Yeah. Get the hell out of my way. For people who don't remember, Senator Kelly is the guy who started the Sentinel program. He didn't invent them. That's Trask, but he started the thing. And all of the, the days of future past going back in time to prevent an assassination, that was Senator Kelly's.
I was just skimming the Exodus page. And the first line of his powers is the ability to telekinetically lift large weights. And I just like, is it only limited to like barbells and stuff? Like that's where my brain went.
Just like circus strongman.
Yeah.
just those 1 ton weights that they had in cartoons that are shaped like, I don't know what they're for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then his second ability is confidence. which mutant abilities enhance when others around him or he himself have faith in him and his abilities, which is a real cult leader kind of vibe. So
it's like the dark version of what Gladiator has.
Sure, yeah, it's very weird.
So they're going in here, and they got a secret here. Quicksilver is like, "Hey, Valerie, when are you going to tell us about this shit?" She says I was going to do it when the time was right, and explains basically the government created a new anti-mutant thing called Project Wide Awake. This like defensive measure to deal with mutants if they get bad. And they go into a big chamber, and it turns out they brought back Sentinels, including ones that are remix Sentinels. I love that some of them are short.
Yes.
Like what? like most of them are like 20 feet tall, but every once in a while you need like an 8 foot tall Sentinel.
I imagine like the Sentinel scientists start with a grid of like tall written across the x-axis and like powerful written across the y, and they were like, well, what happens if we just do like not tall? Like where does the power on the graph go?
Some short king Sentinels. Yeah. They're mixing it with Nimrod technology from the future. There's one that's like got a cool skull on his face, just a whole, mixed grill of Sentinels. Big bad thing to have happen.
Of course.
And as she's explaining this, like, hey, we did this at the worst possible time. Havoc and the rest of X Factor show up, and they're furious.
Yes.
These are genocide machines. Sentinels are no good.
And you imagine that like the first thing they're going to do here is destroy them, and that seems to be what X Factor is going to do when, of all people, Quicksilver pops up, and it's like, actually, I kind of like more than anybody,
I get it.
I get this. Like I kind of understand what they're doing, and I think that maybe they should have the right to defend themselves against people like my father, which is
the acolytes. Like, we just came from a hospital. They just fucked up. What we got there too late. What are people supposed to do? And that question has always been at the heart of the X-Men and the whole Sentinel things and fiction in general, like the idea of the morality of a preemptive strike. But I think this storyline does it pretty well. It's an interesting argument.
Yes.
Like if there are acolytes about, you have to be able to do something about it. We got acolytes. Skylar, we got acolytes.
We got acolytes over here, guys.
There's just a problem.
And speaking of acolytes, we a bunch of them join the fight or kind of just break into this place, just like we knew they were going to do. We do get a reference to the title of this issue, The Man Who Wasn't There, because Quicksilver is talking about Magneto and how his presence kind of lives on and inspires the people like the acolytes to do weird shit. So it's kind of an interesting, I think the writing.
He's a martyr.
Yeah, I think the writing in this
Magneto was right.
is pretty good overall. So I'm pretty happy with it.
GMD DeMatteis is the scripter of this, and he does good dialogue stuff. He's a well-liked, mostly a DC writer, but he's not a hack. They're here for Quicksilver.
Yes.
And while this is happening, Senator Kelly is like, fuck this. Start the self-destruct. This place is absolutely full of monsters who want to kill me. They gotta go.
And he even says, the acolytes are expendable, Val Cooper is expendable, X Factor is expendable. Just get the fucking Sentinels out of here. To get me and the Sentinels out of here. There's some really violent fighting in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like this too, like seeing random fight these guys. But the thing that I like the most is when the fucking multiple man dude, he's getting tag teamed by, I don't even know who these fucking guys are. Old guy and lizard dude. I don't even know these fucking names.
I can't remember these guys' name either.
It's just old guy and lizard dude. And they're gonna, he duplicates himself to win the fight, but they're this lizard dude who, did they never say his name at all?
Not in this book. You're just supposed to recognize acolytes on demand.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And
it's pretty fucked up. I can't remember this guy's name.
In 1992, I could definitely probably recognize this dude. I would be like, oh, this is such and such and such and such.
I will say this guy is so low on the totem pole, he doesn't get an action figure in the 1992 like Toy Biz.
Yeah.
And a lot of these fuckers got action figures. It was that level. This guy did not. Yeah, he's a horrible lizard guy. It doesn't matter because he's gonna die here in a second.
Yes, and that's the thing I wanted to bring up is because
this is great.
It's so fucking cool. Eventually, this green lizard guy is clawing Jamie
MELLENCAMP is his name.
Are you serious?
His name is fucking MELLENCAMP.
MELLENCAMP? Are you serious?
Yeah. Multiple man, when he does his move, he says, "I'm sorry, MELLENCAMP."
Seamus Mellencamp?
That does work with my memory. This big lizard guy is Mellencamp.
Oh my!
That's Mellencamp. I say, elbowing my date.
Mellencamp was a mutant who had to deal with a lot of hardships because of his reptilian appearance. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, just join the Morlocks. Like you don't have to do this. No, you don't have to call yourself Mellencamp. But Mellencamp is sticking his thumbs in Multiple Man's eyes, and it's fucking brutal. And he's trying to get him to stop, like Multiple Man, because Multiple Man has the upper hand. He's not on the back foot, and he does a rad ass thing, which is stick his hand in Mellencamp's mouth, bangs on his hand to create a double, and then creates a duplicate inside Mellencamp,
fucking
exploding him from the inside.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely just incredible. Like I want him to do this all the time. And it kind of fucks Jamie up too. You can tell Jamie's like, that absolutely sucked.
Whoa.
Like the duplicate that he made is just sitting there like, just fucking like, why did you create me for this? Uncreate me immediately.
This is before the duplicates had their own personalities and stuff. That was like a later thing. Imagine being born just like, welp.
Do you want to know the best trivia fact about Seamus Mellencamp in Earth 616?
Hell yeah, I do.
His name was once misspelled Mellon, Mellon, Camp on his first appearance. They didn't even get his name right when he showed up for the first time.
The first time? You can't get someone's name wrong on the first appearance.
And he has since been called
fucking name.
And he has since been called MELLENCAMP once as well. Why do they just misspell this dude's name wrong all the time? Absolutely hilarious.
While this fight's happening, Frenzy goes and sneaks up into where Senator Kelly's hiding out.
Yep.
He's about to kill him. Frenzy is a character from Factor 3 who ends up eventually joining the X-Men at some point. Like, Frenzy is an acolyte who has a long-running history, weirdly enough. She's about to kill Senator Kelly when poor Rain, instead of using cool wolf powers on her, zaps her with a gigantic electric cord. And basically says, hey, Senator Kelly, you're a huge bigot, but a mutant just saved your life. Think about that, or I might be back.
Yep.
You fucked up. We get my other favorite scene in this, other than the Multiple Man thing, is Fabian Cortez has Quicksilver pop up. He's like, we're doing this for you, just to talk to you. You can end this. He goes up and talks to him, and I like Fabian Cortez is giving him shit, and he's like, why are you not down there helping the others? And he's like, well, it looks like I'm not helping them, but I'm actually, evacuating the process, or evacuating the process. What am I looking for?
He almost says flat scans right here, which is interesting, right? Like he says, I'm evacuating the flat scans, but he was actually getting all the humans out.
Yes. They're really trying to sell flat scans like it's the N-word in this, and you can't make up new N-words in fiction.
You can't. Yeah.
It doesn't work. It's never going to have the same weight. People should just stop doing it.
It's never good. Like, they got close with Muty, I think. I feel like Muty is probably the most the closest they've ever come to, even in other media too. Like, can't think of a single time where this has worked out with the way they wanted it to.
Well, and even then it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like they can be like, that's an offensive term, and you can be like, yeah, a little bit, yeah, okay, but it doesn't have real world. Like the allegory breaks down. We talked about that with Kitty Pryde being like, what would you like it if I called you an N-word? And like, whoa, Kitty, whoa there.
I was
I'm down. The claws away, kitten.
I was watching a video the other day of some rap concert, and I think it was someone in Atlanta. It may have been the maybe in 3-6 Mafia with a special guest, and they have some song with the catchy chorus, and of course uses the N-word in it, right? And so they were trying to do the crowd work, and they were like, I'm gonna do this, and y'all say that, and it's a crowd full of white people, and nobody said it, and then one of the rappers says, I'm just kind of during a bit between the chorus and the verse is like, white people can say it too, and you just hear someone off the video go, no.
Say what?
They said no. They scream
no.
out no to the white people can say it too.
I imagine it being like the Vine about the little kid running with the knife.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like, what are you running with? A knife. No.
But the white people could say it too.
I
thought was very funny.
It's very similar to the Samuel Jackson video you showed me.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What, neighbor? Nope. So Fabian Cortez is basically explaining the party line stuff. The humans are always going to do this to us. There's evidence all around us. It's a horrible vision, but you share it, with your father. You need to agree to lead his people. And Quicksilver's like, you can't expect me to agree to this. He's like, I don't expect you to agree. You just have to think about it. I'm planting a seed.
Yes.
You are Magneto's heir. You have this legacy. You cannot escape this, no matter how fast you run, fast man. And then another acolyte, the one that can turn everybody into smoke, teleports everybody away.
Yep.
Amelia Voigt, who I think was a former lover of Charles Xavier.
That's true.
At some point.
Mm-hmm. I think she shows up in the animated series, right? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This whole storyline got adapted in the animated series in like, I think the only good episodes in season 5 or near the end of season 4. No. Everybody leaves, and in what a weird kind of moment, Valerie Cooper pukes up a mind control.
I love this. And this is a little bit better explained, like leading up to this, right? Like you saw this happen at some point. It's not like it was just came out of nowhere. But she kind of says like, "Oh, they were controlling me," and I love that the X Factor is like, "Were they controlling you to build the Sentinels and to hide that from us?" And she's like, "Well, no, not. Well, they weren't controlling that part.
Not that part. Yeah, they controlled me to send you to this trap. This is the person they have on the inside. The feeding court has it on the inside." And she makes the big mistake of saying to Quicksilver, "I was just following orders." And that's the worst thing you can say to this. And as this, I mean, it's a great scene. Like if we're reading the comic and we're really invested in these relationships, she's on her knees, like begging, like, you're not just my employees, like you're my friends, and Quicksilver's like, "Oh, so my best friends are mutants?" That's very typical of a flat scan. And they all walk away from her. Just brutal.
Absolutely brutal, and good. Like this is a good kickoff. I think this is a fun opening to our crossover event.
Yeah. And it makes sense. Even though Quicksilver is only tangentially related to X-Men, he'd have to be involved in this.
Yeah,
there's no way Quicksilver would miss out on the big Magneto thing.
The funny thing is, like, Wanda really isn't, and I don't know what the status of Lorna Dane was at this point. If they thought that she was his child or not, like that's never. I know that.
I don't think so at this point. And Wanda might have been dead.
Wanda might have been dead. That's a good point.
I think Wanda was dead at this point, actually. I don't know for sure. But
that's going to lead us to our next issue, which is X-Force number 25. Home is the Warrior.
Yes. Behold, now the Home is the Warrior. Behold, now the Exodus. There's kind of a twist in the beginning of this, but it's ruined in 2D and in hologram on the cover.
Yes.
This was cool for me because at the time I was reading this comic. So I knew, Cable being gone, all this stuff with Rusty and Skids, the Mutant Liberation Front. Like I was collecting this comic.
Yeah, you were into this.
I was really into it. Again, as a little baby kid, did not have taste. But I loved X-Force. And I probably read this comic as a kid, because I had it and you read what you have. This specific one I have probably read. This and X-Men 25. I've probably read, like 30 times. It's real silly.
I think I have this one in my comic book boxes. I think our next year's goal is to turn my shed area into like an outdoor cooking situation. So I'm having to clean out my shed and throw away a bunch of stuff. And I'm at that point. I just don't know what I'm going to do with the comic books I've been carrying around for 30 years.
Yep.
Like I don't, it feels horrible to just throw them away. Like they're all bagged and tagged and nice and neat. And I don't know any young comic book people that would want them anymore. Yeah. Like, I mean, they don't have any advertisements for Fortnite, so I don't know what they're going to really do with them. So
I don't know. There might be a place that'll try to buy them in bulk, but you get pennies for them. I did that when I made the similar decision to get rid of all my old comics. I sold just ridiculous amounts of comics for like $60, and then there were tons of them they wouldn't take. It was a real bad experience. It felt bad.
Yeah, and then the local comic book shop here, like the only local shop, or there's two, but the big one closed down. So, and I don't even think they were buying books. I don't think they were that kind of situation. They were just like hey, we're going to sell new stuff and board game things. So.
Yep. Yeah, it's a bad time. It's a good reason never to have a floppy issue of a comic again.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while I get nostalgic for it, and I'm like, I could go with a little ritual where like once a week I go get comics and I sit and eat lunch and read them. That'd be nice. And it would be nice. But at the same time, what would I do with them?
Yeah, the
you know?
after, right? Like I have some Lucy's that because me and Autumn did that for a long time after we got married. Like that was like our Saturday tradition. Like we'd go get comics and go get some fish and chips at the place next to it and just have a great afternoon. Like drink some beers, read some comics, have a great time. And I still have those. And I'm like, what am I going to do with these Lucy's that are just been sitting in my closet forever that are extremely beautiful comics and like a nice piece of physical thing that I don't necessarily just want to toss in the trash. Like I hate doing it.
It's weird because I don't feel that way about books. Like I like keeping books around. Like books are kind of decoration, you know? So like, even if I'm a little bit done with the book, its presence just doesn't bother me. Whereas comics, in order to store them, you have to kind of put them away and they just become another box.
Yeah.
You know, that you're not messing with.
Books have become an albatross around my neck as well. Like we have 2 or 3 bookshelves in the house that are just full of like books, and some of them are nice. And Autumn and I like bonded the first day we met on like, oh, you have this, oh, I have that, oh, you read that. Like it was one of those situations.
Yeah.
And now like I just look up and I'm like, why do we have 2 copies of like The Witching Hour by Anne Rice? Why do we own these 2? I don't understand what's going on. But yeah. Anyway,
it's anywho, the media ends up owning us.
That's true. The things you own, Gary.
Yes.
X Factor 25. Speaking of the things that we own,
X-Force.
Excuse 25. Me.
Yeah. This begins with a character in shadow who is obviously Magneto, looking at this screen of X-Men and X-Men associated people. I love this. It includes Adam X in the lower right, second from the right bottom square. Adam X, just the absolute fucking worst.
There's some real like profile picture stuff here. Like Rogue's face specifically just looks insane. But Cyclops looks like he's like from the like cover of a romance novel. Look at those puffy lips that he has, my man. Like it's so good. Got
some real DSLs on Cyclops there. He's talking about talking to the children of the Atom, inviting Xavier's children to join him. Xavier's foolish quest for the Holy Grail is over. It will be over when I take the kids from him. But this isn't full on villain Magneto like we're going to get in the next issue of the crossover. This is a Magneto that is still trying to make a case.
Yeah.
We start off with X Factor or X4. Goddamn it!
That's how you did it. Yeah.
Back to Camp Verde, which I think is a kind of salsa. Where
it's just the word green, Gary. Like anything can be Verde. You can have Verde anything you want to. It's 2023, my man.
This is they're coming back in their cool iPac, their cool X-Jet. They just went and fought the Mutant Liberation Front and Strife in order to get back Rusty and Skids. Remember them from the X Factor?
Yeah.
Or the Fall of the Mutants comics we did. This is all land that James Proudstar got after his tribe was wiped out. Also by Strife, I think.
Yes.
I think somebody else also killed it. Strife was real busy here. And they're back, and Farrell notices there's a smell in the air.
And I like this comic a lot because it's kind of like if you hadn't read, like I obviously hadn't read these issues in a long time, but they very quickly get you into like who these characters are and like the situation of the team where Cannonball is the leader since Cable is left, but everybody is still like, yeah, I mean, you're the leader. You're the sure. Yeah. You could run the company while Dad's in jail, but Michael, just go right ahead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. We need something for Shatterstar to do. Hire your brother Shatterstar. I don't care for Richter. As a kid, because I was a horrible little teenager, one of the reasons why I read this comic is because it's full of ladies in skin tight outfits.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought Boom Boom was very hot. And Farrell, who is a wolf girl, I have no furry DNA. She's also fucking naked. And as a kid, that was enough.
That was it. That was that was plenty. Like,
yeah, she's not wearing clothes, man. What else were you supposed to do?
I mean, had to take it where you can get it, man. It wasn't like that. Remember, this was pre-internet. We didn't really have we didn't have the things that kids have nowadays.
This is I'm not trying to buzz market or crossover for other Duckfeed stuff, but me and Cole just did an Abject Suffering. One of the arcades in town. It's called Quarter World here. And I found out they have an adult room in the back that has a couple slot machines, a couple porn games I've heard of, but then a porn game called Mad Donna. And Mad Donna is a vaguely aviation themed Pac-Man with guns, where at the end of every level you get a long look at a high resolution nudie pic. And it is the most explicit porn in a porn game from the 90s I've ever seen. Like, there's full flap.
What?
Like you see pink, lots of pink. Yeah.
It's
incredible.
That's intense, my man. That's extremely intense.
Very intense. A weird thing about it is it's either set too easy or the game is easy. And like the main thing I was thinking was like, if I were a kid, this is a great rate.
Yeah. This is
like a quarter for this much porn. Yeah. Is unbelievable.
Can you play the game one-handed though? Is the question.
What's in between? They give you a little break.
Oh, sure. Okay, so you can.
The game is good and is not. The graphics are real cute. Like, it doesn't look phoned in. It just, every once in a while you see somebody fingering themselves. It's fucking weird.
Very, very bizarre.
Yeah.
So,
anywho,
yeah. So Cannonball is going to split the team up into pairs of 2, and they're all going to investigate specific parts of the compound. We start pretty quick with Boom Boom and Cannonball is extremely mad because he's been sketching out like some bunker compound ideas, and somebody finished his plans and did them better than he could have ever done.
Yeah. He wants to know why.
It's so good.
I love them. Yeah. Oh no, is Mr. Sinister doing our homework again? This is an X-Men emergency. Very funny. They cut over there. We see that. We see Siren and Warstar. What is
Proudstar?
James Proud?
Yeah.
Proudstar is his last name.
Warhawk.
I'm trying to remember his Warbird. I'm trying to remember his code name.
Let's see.
They just refer to him as James, like, generally. In this.
Let's see who.
Thunderbird.
It's got to be Thunderbird, right?
Yeah. I can never remember which one is him and which one's his brother. Anywho, they're just flying around and get shot. There's not a whole lot of, nothing really comes of it.
Yeah.
They just get shot.
And then Richter and Sunspot get gassed pretty quickly.
Yep.
That we're seeing, by the way, like in the background, just the compound stuff where, like, because they like, you need to go to the Terra section and you need to go to the such section, like where they've just slapped paint.
The lid.
Yeah.
Yeah. The lid is called the lid because it's Little Yellow Different.
The lid.
Which was a reference to an old pain reliever commercial that doesn't exist anymore. This shadowy figure, who we obviously know as Cable, is bad mouthing them, and I love how much he does not like Richter or Sunspot.
Yeah.
Just horrible. We cut over to Shatterstar and Feral in the armory smelling stuff. They don't smell anything. They're kind of flirting a little bit when they get zapped as well.
Yep.
Blinded by Cable.
Just some magnesium burst.
Yep.
And just as he's about to go find Sam, he gets blasted from behind by Sam. And he is blasted and hit into a weapons rack where Cable then picks up the Ouch Maker, which is written on the side of this gun, which I think
it's most guns
at the time. Hilarious and amazing, very, very cool. And then probably for about 20 years, not very cool. And right at this exact moment, very cool again. Made the full loop for me. I like it. You put the Ouch Maker on the side of a gun. I think it's very funny.
Into the Ouch Maker. Cable says basically, that was a bad tactic. Sam putting me of all people in the armory. I got the Ouch Maker now. We see the creative team here. It's Fabian Nicieza, again, who I generally like. The art is Greg Capullo, who I didn't know the name, but I read a lot of his stuff, obviously, because I read this book. Doing Marvel house style, like kind of Liefeld-esque, because everything's thick and has pouches, but better.
Yeah.
Like everything isn't bad feet and horrible. The renderings are better. The proportions aren't awful.
And just like general posing and blocking and framing is very, very good.
Yeah.
Although Farrell, like literally like leaning down to sniff Cable's feet is a weird frame for me. Like, your sin is different.
Your sin is different. Like, it's before the whole world got into feet. Like, now if this comic came out, people would lose their goddamn minds.
People love feet, dude.
Over this.
People love to talk about
now
feet.
People love feet.
Or people love to talk about people who love feet. I think that's more of the situation.
Yeah, I think it's more of a meme than actually that many foot fetishists.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so they have their reunion and they're all very excited. Shatterstar, who is Longshot's son, who is all a dork, is like, it's an honor to see a warrior return for when he thought he was canceled.
Canceled is very funny. Yeah, I know it's because of Mojoverse, but it's just very funny in the modern terminology.
I love that. Yeah, he's been canceled. Cable went on Joe Rogan, and he had to leave X-Force for a little bit. It was actually Strife who went on Joe Rogan. My twin with his helmet off.
Cable spends a lot of time in this issue just explaining things that Strife did while he was away. He's like, "Oh no, I didn't do that. Like, well, somebody left milk outside on the counter and it spoiled. Well, that was definitely Strife. We don't know his motives."
The man hates milk. It's the Milk Liberation Front. He thinks it should be in fridges. The MLF. As this reunion's happening, Richter and Sunspot are like, not everyone is happy enough to see, happy to see this murderer. And this is where Cable explains, like, hey, I didn't murder your people.
Yeah.
Your father was killed by Strife. I'm not sure why. And your father was killed by Gideon! ! No evidence or anything. Just so you know.
Just, hey.
The external Gideon did it.
Sure.
Yeah. The externals were a thing they were trying to make happen for a little bit in the 90s.
Yeah.
They suck. The Cable explains he's been gone for a little while. He's been lost in the time stream, and has learned a lot of things. And it basically has this heart to heart. Like, I need X-Force. You're not an army. You're like a family. You make a difference in my life. You kids believed in my more forceful interpretation. You've chosen to grow, and Sam is putting on this tough guy act. Cannonball. He's saying, like, we don't need you anymore. Here. And Cable basically says, hey, I should never left you in charge. Like, Cannonball's a kid at this point.
Yeah.
Like a young kid. He's a little buff boy. He's got faces of boys, but body of man. Like he looks like he is supposed to be an adult, but he's really not. He's a teen. And Cable just says, yeah, like the burden of leadership sucks. I never should have left you with that. That's too much for anyone to bear.
Yeah. And you shouldn't have to do this. And this ends in like a hug with the two of them, like talking about, oh, hey, you're family. And I'm back. And everybody except Cable is back as basically the leader of X-Force.
It's very similar to that Simpsons. Like, let's all hug a poo.
Yeah.
Aww,
sure.
Let's all hug him again. I love Warpath. It's Warpath. I remember now. Warpath and Siren coming and being like, we're also into him. Like they've just been gone for this whole thing, and just walk in and be like, no, he's good. And Siren gets to go, and that's it. Love it. So they're all going to bond and be together. We cut over to them discussing strategy while the kind of junior members are out in the yard killing time.
I do remember
Richter,
why I like Shatterstar so much, because every other frame of him is just him doing like some upside down like handstand on the top of a sword kind of situation, and I just absolutely love
ludicrous.
it. Yeah, it's so dumb and comic booky, and I love it.
He did. He got majorly rehabilitated in the Peter David X Factor. Like, comes back. He's like lovers with Richter and stuff. Like all these characters that are not that great in this eventually got fixed and got very cool. This has an awesome just time capsule thing where Warpath is listening to headphones. And he's like, "Did you say something, Rick? Sorry, porno for pyros. You know how I zone out on them." God, I love to zone out on porno for pyros.
What do you think the 2023 reference would be? You think it'd be like Billie Eilish or Boy Genius or something?
Yeah, you know how I zone out on Billie Eilish. Yeah, just ludicrous stuff. Richter is throwing a little fit because he's not part of the meeting. He's old school too.
Yeah,
Shatterstar says, "Hey, like this is ridiculous. You have this ego. They're doing strategy. We're just the warriors." Richter, says something about this, and Shatterstar backflips and chokes him. I want to know what Pharaoh's going to do with this little lizard as well.
Yeah, for real.
While
right?
this is happening, Pharaoh catches a lizard and then like looks at it. Eat it. Her claw's in it. Like it's
a dead lizard. Yeah, she has killed this poor lizard, which is a bummer.
I suppose she's going to eat it. Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know, protein. We go back to the rest of the team. They're discussing what to do with Rusty and Skids. They've been kidnapped, but they're still brainwashed by Strife.
Yep.
And
of course there's some also like tension between Cannonball and Cable, because he's like, I still don't really trust you. You need to give me a reason to trust you. And we have this incredible page that I think is just maybe one of the best X-Men pages of all time, of just Cable explaining Cable, just talking about his entire like deal, and still leaving a good portion of his life out of it, right? Like there's still a lot that they're not talking about here, and it's fucking brilliant. I love it.
It's worth noting that like at this time, it feels like about half the X-Men characters were from the future and whenever anyone asked them a straight up question, they would just not answer.
Yeah.
So you had to piece together what Cable's deal or Bishop's deal or Shard's deal or Trevor Fitzroy's deal was over the course of like years and 6 different comic lines. There weren't wikis or anything. So just to have somebody be like, fucking A, Cable, we've been hanging out. What is up with you? And have him just give you the Wikipedia for Cable is really great.
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Yeah. And very good. Even X-Force is surprised. And I think Cable even has a line of like, well, you did ask. Like, you asked. I told you everything that I needed to tell you. But just then they get an intruder alert, and outside waiting for them is Exodus, who explains that that he is looking for people to join him to convene with the Overlord. And there's a lot of typical like, oh, we don't know who you are, so we're going to blast you. But, Exodus pretty much quickly overpowers them and is like, hey, I'm only really here to get like one of y'all. And there's
you guys are not wanted. I really like Richter being like, I guess nobody needs us today. That's fun. Here he zaps everybody, and then the rest of the team shows up here and do this plan to take him down. And he keeps saying like, I'm not here to fight, like he just keeps putting them back down. He's pulling his punches, he's not killing them, he's just knocking them down. He's like, I'm not here to fight you. I came here for the primary children of the Atom, the people who were taught by Magneto. Magneto taught the New Mutants for a while. The second generation, give me Cannonball and Sunspot.
Yep.
And Cannonball starts his plan at this point. It's a real clever plan. He starts like, well, what about the other people? What about Zian Koiman and Rain Sinclair? What about that stuff? And he's like, no, it's just the first generation New Mutants. And he goes, well, that's Boom Boom and Richter too. And he's like, well, they weren't asked for. And he's like, no, they have to go. Like, I'm not going unless they go. So he's doing a tactical thing here. This is supposed to show that he is, coming into his own as a leader. He's getting a bigger team to back him up in case things go shit.
Mm-hmm. And he agrees. And then, they do a whirlwind to go back up into space. And, Shatterstar is like, I can't believe that they left us behind. And Cable, of course, is like, nope. He grabbed my shoulder and planted his comlink, like just like I trained him how to do. So he's set everybody up to follow him. And you realize like, hey, this dude is actually leading the team like the way that he's supposed to.
Yeah. Exodus says heaven awaits those who pray here, just so Cable can stunt on that line later.
Sure.
It's just funny. They go up there and they are on a gigantic space station. And Exodus is walking around being like, and they don't give a shit. I really like him just being like, we've done a lot of this stuff. Like, we've been a lot of this stuff. This is not exactly, impressive. I also like Rusty and Skids being like, strife will liberate us from chaos and anarchy. And Boom Boom saying, you get used to him. It's like music.
Yeah.
Or Muzak. I like that.
And even Exodus being like, I don't understand that reference. Please do not make fun of me. Like all of this is very Venture Brothers to me, just with the way that everybody is acting here. And it's in a very good way. Like you could see where some of the Venture Brothers influence came from in these kind of comics.
Yeah. They get there and they explain what it is. You're in this place called Grave or Avalon. You may know it because it was once known as Grey Malkin. Grey Malkin was Cable's space station. Yeah. He lived in for a while. And the X-Force lived in for a while. And they're recognizing it, but it's been kludged together with a bunch of Shi'ar stuff and just various tech. It just looks like techno walls.
Yes.
It looks like Armored Core 6 fires Rubicon stages.
None of this looks... Number one, how dare you? How dare you make fun of my baby? Number two...
Stages don't look good. They look like the Surge stages. It's just pipes to walk on. Pipes.
It's just pipes. I'm there for mechs, not pipes. They meet the leader, who is obviously Magneto, but Ness is Magneto in a giant purple and gold robe, like he's fucking graduating from LSU to LSU next week.
I love cult Magneto.
And
he's not wearing a shirt under it.
No, not at all. Why would you need a shirt when you've got a robe, Gary? Who wears a shirt underneath a robe?
It's leading into that amazing Magneto drip from the cartoon where it's just him in the pants with the red sash.
Tell me more. Yes.
Yeah, it's very good. He walks up and lays hands on Rusty and Skids using magnet powers with the iron in their blood to destroy the parts of their brain that Strife messed with. Mm-hmm. Basically destroying the brain tissue. And they're just fine. That's fine. No doctors need involved. He's a Magneto. He can understand which brain tissue is essential and which one isn't.
He's all powerful. Yeah, who needs that guy?
Very funny. And he fixes them. He unbrainwashes them.
Yep.
Pretty wild. And he starts selling his thing. All mutants are welcome here in heaven. Kind of a rough draft for Krakoa is for all mutants.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Yeah, you're right.
We cut to the other half of the team. They're flying up in the IPAC thing, and heading up there, following the signal, trying to get there until they see it, and Cable gets furious. I love it. I knew it. Grey Malkin. Someone has taken it. He's so pissed that someone stole his fun space station.
It has to be reminded, right? Like it's like, hey, look, it's okay that it's like you're with us and we're your family. Do you remember all that family stuff? And he's like, this is my fucking ship, man.
Yeah, it's all I have. And then he goes, heaven awaits those who pray like the 2017 Arcane masterpiece. Very funny. They all arrive there, and Magneto's like, who dare? And Cannonball says, oh, I did it. We had to have an out in case there was trouble. Cannonball likes Magneto. Like this was his teacher. The last time he saw him, he looked up to him. He taught him as much as Xavier did.
Yeah.
Here. And he basically starts, explaining, Magneto says, like, I hope you can stay and we can learn from each other. Are you still children of Charles Xavier's dream?
Yep.
Or are you independent? I know you think you can walk Cable's path and that's the good one, but it's not. My path is the only way. And this is when Cable and the crew show up.
Yep. And it's blasting time. We're gonna blast through some people. We're gonna do a bunch of energy bolts. Warpath is like, I don't want to punch you, Exodus, because you look kind of like you're an Indian like me, which seems a little weird.
Yeah.
But
he's just a French guy with different colored skin.
Yeah, he's just and like and like a weird like appropriation braid, right? Like he's got that weird.
Yes. He does his hair at Cost Plus World Market.
Yeah, of course.
In the African masks section, just past that to the Native American section. So they beat the shit out of Exodus basically.
Yep.
He zaps him back, et cetera, et cetera. They're fighting, they're punching. And Cable says, okay, we're gonna teleport out. I'm gonna self-destruct this and blow it to pieces. And Cannonball says, no, you can't do this. Cable's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, who's responsible? We don't need Magneto hovering over the planet in a space station. It turns out Cable's right with that. But Sam says, no, like, he says he's gonna make this place a place for mutants to choose. Rusty and Skids have decided to stay here. People should have that choice. If people want to leave Earth and go live with Magneto in his space station, that should be fine. So it's up to them.
So I'm kind of confused about this because he makes that point and Cable is like, I can't believe that you guys have gotten me into this moral quandary. And like, I'm looking at this and then it's like, and it seems like Cable agrees with them and then just literally is like, sends them out of the door into the spaceship, like body slides them even over their protest, right? Like gets them the fuck out of there.
He's fooling them. Like he's still the old Cable.
Yeah.
Heaven help him. He knows he's right about not letting Magneto have the space station, at some point. So even though he agrees with it, they're not going to agree. He doesn't have time to do the fight, I think is what this is. Yeah. So he teleports him out. While he starts walking around, he's got two missions while he's here. Grey Malkin, the ship, had a sentient AI that Exodus said that they altered the programming of, called Professor, which huge slap in the dick to Professor X.
I mean, it could be a complimentary thing, right? Like, I mean, when Tony Stark does it with what's her name, like that seems like it's just a nice thing,
I
right?
guess that's true. Yeah, a little bit more respectful here. He goes and downloads. He puts a USB flash drive and downloads his friend.
Very sweet.
And he's gonna blow everything up. And I love Magneto being like, I allowed you the courtesy to rescue your AI. Like, I knew you were here. You're not being sneaky. But I'm not going to let you blow up my fucking house. That's nuts. And we get to see Magneto in the full uniform.
Yeah.
For the first time.
And he's just completely fucking wrecking Cable, right? Like just punching the dude around. Yep. And then he's like, oh, and by the way, like mostly fucking metal, man. Like, what are you even doing? And just completely explodes Cable in this incredible panel of him just all of his techno organic like parts just coming apart at the seams, and then him laying there half a person, you know, just bleeding onto the floor, his whole face fucking broken and bruised, and it's just it's awful.
It's real horrific. You know, really fucked him up. If Magneto is going to be like, when the X-Men first started fighting Magneto, by percentage, many of the X-Men were not half metal. And now by this point, a lot of them are.
It seems like the opposite direction that you'd want to go, right?
Yeah, you'd want to become a less metal team, not a more metal team here. But Cable basically says, you know what, I'm still alive because I'm a man, I'm not a machine, you know, and he teleports away. You know, and makes the point, like, I'm going to be there to talk to those kids and you're not.
Yeah.
Here. So he escapes. The kids are all freaking out because he's really hurt. And Exodus says, oh, he was a real pushover. And Magneto says, it's actually really challenging. Like, he can now sculpt this next generation. All I got were Rusty and Skids. And Rusty and Skids are standing right there.
And I wanted Magneto to be like, all I got is Rusty and Skids. And one of their names is Skids, for God's sakes.
The other one's Rusty. They both sound like horrible, like not just sex moves, but shit-related sex moves.
Yeah, absolutely.
The worst kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, utilizing shit as a tool.
Awful.
You know, it's awful.
But I do like this Magneto who says, like, this was not a physical combat, like this was a philosophical one. Like, I wanted to win their minds. That was the goal, and we lost. And now we're going to turn our attention to, you know, Xavier students. And I'm like, man, if you can't pick up like the ragtag X-Force people, like you're gonna have, you think Cyclops is going to jump over? Like, that's not for years, man. You got a long time to wait. Yeah,
it's not going to work. Yeah, I like that a lot too. And this, we're going to get into it. So we're actually going to do two issues this thing. We usually, you know, episodes of the show are an hour. There's a lot to talk about in Fatal Attractions.
Yes.
So we're going to call it there. That's the thing, is this version of Magneto is excellent. And then the next one is a sniveling villain.
It's just horrible.
Next issue.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to being excellent.
It's so weird.
It's very frustrating.
It's so weird, man.
But this version, who's trying to win hearts and minds, is my favorite version of villain Magneto.
Yeah.
You know, if he's going to be just a villain, I like him doing philosophical combat and not just killing the flat scans.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, which is boring as a motivation.
And it's fun. Like, it gets like, and I like him when they do it while they're punching too, right? Like, I want to hear these philosophical arguments while they're punching each other in the mouth. Like, that's also fun for me.
It's classic. Yeah. It's classic X-Men shit. Yeah, I like this crossover. Like, I had fun reading it again.
Yeah. Like I said, I read it all on a plane, including the lead-in issues, and had a good time, and really enjoyed my time with it. So it was a fun read.
In terms of 90s X-Men, stands up pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, not all of it does. Leads into Onslaught, which I'll tell you right now doesn't hold up.
No.
But this does hold up.
Yeah, we haven't even, like, what part of the reason that we chose this was to see Colossus break bad, and we haven't really talked extensively about that because Colossus hasn't showed up yet. It's interesting. It's gonna be fun to talk about. In the meantime, thank you everybody for listening. We very much appreciate it. Thank you for leaving ratings and reviews. Some of you have sent in emails for feedback because I asked for that at one point, and we just haven't made we haven't made time for a feedback episode. So thank you for sending stuff in. If you want to send some stuff in, you can do it daysoffuturecast@gmail.com, and send us your thoughts and feelings on anything that we've got to talk about, Marvel, X-Men, MCU related. Yeah. And if you want to support the show directly, go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and donate money and get cool shit and get awesome features. Yeah. It's a rad time over there.
It is. There's a lot of stuff you get. It is a big value.
Yes.
At the very least. Yeah. And it's good to be back doing this. We don't know what we're going to do after this. We're we talked about a couple of things, but we want to find something that fits. This is a good, short, important storyline.
Yeah.
Feedback, is also useful. If you like this length of storyline for us, if you like it when we go and do Age of Apocalypse and Uncanny X-Force, like do, Ecstatics level things, let us know. If you like us doing those one-offs, like when we did the Origins things like that. Just let us know. We won't necessarily do it. We're gonna do what we like as well. But I do want to hear what people like.
It's always fun getting suggestions from people. Like we get a lot of good suggestions. So I'm excited. I think it's gonna be fun to read this, and we'll probably get a few more episodes out of it. So anyway, thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you in a couple of weeks with a new episode of Days of Future Cast. Bye.